Now, these data breaches, these allegedly government data breaches, are really raising concerns about security risk. So the key questions is that we need to think about and discuss and talk about is how vulnerable is the US data with the team of Musk controlling this with AI and space communication, for example. It was talked about when I was listening to, I'm going to put the links here from the videos that I watched from the cases, for example, that's currently going. And I've been putting links in anyway. Could this lead to a national security crisis? What are the implications for businesses handling sensitive data? Well, you know, as business owners, that you need to have the correct policies and procedures in place, the correct structures, as well as the correct certifications, licenses, for example, for holding and handling sensitive data. And from the links that I'm going to put in here, that there has to be a process when it definitely becomes, when it's part of the US government, definitely. Someone really should be, according to what I was listening to, the gentleman said that, a minimum for a year working in the US government department and gone through security checks. And that means everything gets checked and approved before you even allow to delve into people's private information. So cybersecurity should be your top priority as a business, especially if you're possibly AI driven automation as well. That's something important, because when you're looking to apply for contracts, they want to know that you've got cyber security. They want to know that it's safe, that you're going to keep people's information safe, and it's not going to be put on social media or even access through a website, for example, your data. And now we've also got global tariffs and economic shakeup that's happening around the world. And I can't just not talk about this, because it's something that we're all affected by, for example. So the Trump administration is pushing new tariffs on multiple countries, aiming to boost US manufacturing. But could this backfire? I remember, if you're not aware of it, Donald Trump used to be like in The Apprentice, and I remember watching it in America, but I also remember watching it in the UK when it was Alan Sugar doing The Apprentice, you're fired, that type of thing. And it's strange how you can come from one sector and business and then suddenly into another business, for example. I'm just sort of on the fence with regards to that. But the key questions here is, how will these tariffs affect businesses relying on international suppliers? Could this trigger a trade war, making goods more expensive for consumers? We're seeing it already. So what industries stand to gain or lose from this tariff policy, for example. So some will win because they're going to manufacture in their own country of where they are. So it's time to get back to how it used to be, for example. And then everyone just buys from their country, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, for example. But there's also some supply chains that will require higher import cost as well, which will affect you, the consumer. Then there's the possibility of this Android threat that's, in 10 years' time, for example. But should NASA and the government be looking at this in more greater depth, and could they have prevented it from happening? I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm just reading about what's been going on over the last week, for example. Could this also lead to a new government contract for aerospace or defense companies, for example? What role does SpaceX and AI technology play in planetary defense, for example? So maybe looking at disaster proofing, for example. And I've already mentioned this from September last year about recession proofing your business, crisis planning, things like that. Crisis resilient industries could be a key to this long-term success. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are, and to think about positioning yourself in an industry that is benefiting from government contracts. Leverage AI and automation to stay ahead of job disruptions, for example. Be prepared for economic shifts. Our jobs are never guaranteed. So we got to think about, what would happen if I was to lose my job, for example? What would I do? So I just wanted to go through that with you, but I've also got some more to go through. So when you look at Donald Trump and Elon Musk, for example, they've got a real special relationship going on. It's very unique relationship that they've got, and they support one another. You saw, you may not have seen, but they did a interview. I watched it today, and they were very much together. And they were saying that they're not going to be, broken by what's happening. They're going to stick together, and bond, for example, back in one another. So their partnership, it really has sparked debates about the intersection of policies and innovation, highlighting how their combined influence can shape Americans' policies and market trends. So I believe what's going to happen here is that there's going to be some new laws, new policies, procedures, innovations. All of this is making people think around the world, because you don't want this to happen again, for example, from what I'm seeing. And I'm only going from what I'm seeing and what I've heard. This isn't this coming, like I definitely know this, that, and the other. This is just me talking about what I've been listening to. So you really need to understand that even the basics you've got to get to grips with if you're just starting out with contracts, that is, because it is a formal agreement between two or more parties, and either party, the terms and conditions in the transactions or the relationship, they play a crucial role in the business dealing. But there's responsibilities on both sides. It's not just a one-sided thing. A contract is two parties. There's commitment. Just like a marriage, you go into a contract. It's commitment from two people. So the parties hold each other accountable. And for entrepreneurs, it's essential for you to look at the contracts that you're looking at applying for and understanding every single aspect of the contract that you're applying for, because you could end up signing away something that you didn't even realize. Like if they mention, well, if this happens, will you do this? Like guarantee this. Do you have that agreement? Is that in there, for example? If you guarantee it, then you provide that until you've delivered, for example. So, like I said though, the shocking truth about contracts is there are some surprising facts that have shaped people's careers